evening and welcome to the special edition of Perspectives Daily. I'm Noel Okel. There is a storm brewing here in Canada, a political storm of sorts that involves a grave violation of Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The main offender in this case is none other than the Canadian federal government itself. The Liberal government under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is trying to deny access to a public benefit based on religious beliefs and conscience objection. In essence, the government is insisting that you either agree with their so-called values or you simply don't qualify for the public benefit. Let me explain. The Canadian Summer Jobs Program is a federal program that gives wage subsidies to employers so that they can hire summer students. It's a great program. They created over 69,000 summer jobs for students last year, giving them opportunities that they wouldn't normally have. But now, before receiving any federal funds under this program, employers must confirm a declaration that they are in support of certain values determined by the Liberal government, including, among other things, the right to access safe and legal abortions, a right which incidentally doesn't exist in the Canadian Charter anywhere. So it's not surprising that this move by the government has sparked outrage from the Catholic Church and other faith communities who rightly say that they're being forced to choose between their spiritual core values on one hand or funding that helps summer job programs, most of which have absolutely nothing to do with abortion, on the other. Now, here in Toronto, Cardinal Thomas Collins, the Archbishop of Toronto, participated in a press conference on January 25th, along with other prominent faith leaders, to release an interfaith statement and to discuss the impact of the new funding rules will have on faith-based organizations and on the community as a whole. The statement itself, signed by over 80 religious leaders, was a call for the government to amend guidelines so that religious organizations can stay true to their communal identity and beliefs. And here is what the Cardinal had to say on the matter.
Good afternoon. We know that with the changes to the Canada Summer Jobs Guidelines application process for 2018, many organizations will be deemed ineligible because they are unable or unwilling to attest that their core mandate and beliefs align with the current government's self-identified values. These groups, though their views and actions are accepted by law and by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, are being denied equal access to a government benefit solely because of their religious beliefs or conscientious objection. Faith communities across the country make incredible contributions to strengthening our cities, provinces, and our country. When embracing the poor and the marginalized, we do not ask for one's background or belief. We serve them because it is our faith that motivates us to do so. In the Archdiocese of Toronto alone, we know that at least 150 summer jobs will be impacted by the new application requirements. A summer camp for deaf children, employment for developmentally challenged young people, students cutting grass or helping with gardening, welcoming newcomers to our country. These jobs are important for young students, but we must also remember the people who rely on the services they provide. It is deeply troubling to me that all who are involved are being forced to endorse a particular set of values prescribed by the government. In managing its programs, the government should respect and accommodate the diversity of values and beliefs within Canadian society, and must itself abide by the Charter in its treatment of individuals and groups. The fundamental freedoms of conscience and religion, thought, belief, opinion, and expression, as guaranteed in the Charter, must be respected and affirmed in legislation and regulations and in policy. We hope that the government will hear the voices here today and those across Canada that have respectfully asked that the attestation be removed or amended. While we may disagree on many fundamental issues, we all share the desire to live in a democratic and free nation where Canadians respect and work alongside one another thoughtfully and peacefully.
The many other speakers also called on the government to accommodate the diversity of values and beliefs in Canadian society. They all expressed concern about what the policy could turn into in the upcoming years.
I too respectfully ask that the attestation be removed from the Canadian Summer Jobs Program. I do so as a representative of the Jewish community. And while we make use of this jobs program, in speaking within my community, I know that there are relatively few jobs that will be affected. The recognition that we as Canadians share in one society where if some are excluded, all are affected is crucial to how we must see an issue like this one. In thinking through the attestation's requirements about a core mandate, and the definition of the core mandate as being one that reflects upon action as the government understands it, puts us as religious communities, and not just religious communities, but as all Canadians, at a linguistic interpretive issue that is really open to interpretation. What is a core mandate? What is it now? And what will it be 5 years from now or 10 years from now? When we ask that in order to receive government funding, that a group must make such a statement, what will that statement look like in the future? As a minority in Canada, even when we might support the views of the majority, we must ask ourselves who is being excluded. I ask that we as Canadians consider this issue not just as a religious, secular issue, but as an issue that surrounds our freedom as Canadians to believe what we do, to be able to exist as a society that respects many diverse views, even those not shared by the majority of Canadians. I ask that we respect difference, because that is one of our core Canadian values, and the day will come when each of us might be in the minority.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Imam Rifat Mohammed, representing the Muslim community and the Canadian Council of Imams. We have seen the point of the attestation in regard to the summer job this summer and this time, and it is really disturbing for many of our communities, for those who are applying for the grants for the summer jobs. And our fear is that this might affect the future as well, not just this current point. And it will be something that is need to be taken into any application in the future for any grants that might come in the future. So the new application requires each organization to give non-negotiable and unqualified affirmation of certain beliefs held by the current government. So as Canadians, we would like to, and as organizations, religious organizations, would like to work side by side with our government so that we can solve the issues that could affect our youth and our generations and our communities and our newcomers and our refugees who are welcomed in this beautiful country of us. So we want to make sure that we actually work in order to remove any attestation that might affect any application in the near future, and especially this one. So, as we know that Canada has long history of cooperation and cooperation between religious organizations and governments in our health care and social welfare system, and in many other areas of our life. So we'd like to make sure that this is taken into consideration, that we work together to amend this attestation or to remove it completely. And hopefully that our government respectfully will listen to us and respect the concerns of any organization that might get affected with such attestation needed in these applications of summer jobs. And hopefully it doesn't go further than that as well in the future. So the promise of a free and democratic society is that there be no religious or ideological tests or conditions to receiving government benefits or protection. The changes to the Canada Summer Jobs Guidelines and application not only violate the fundamental freedoms of faith-based organizations, they also significantly, unfortunately, impact the broader communities served by their programs, often the most vulnerable in Canadian society. Canada is known and widely respected as a religiously plural and multicultural society. Yes, we love the differences that we have in Canada. We are really proud of how we are, and we should always respect the fact that we are different and we have different beliefs, and everyone always has the freedom to connect and to attach to his principles and his values. Thank you.
Now, the deadline for applications into this program ends on February 2nd, and Trudeau is stubbornly holding his positions, which means that it is most likely that many worthy employers will lose access to subsidies, leaving many kids across Canada out of a job this summer. And I had a chance to talk to Cardinal Collins one-on-one after the press conference to ask him about what happens next, whether it's too late, and if the fight for change will continue on after the February 2nd deadline.
Well, the February 2nd deadline is a very, very big problem. We would hope that, first of all, the government would agree to meet with us to either remove or to amend or do something. We want to work together with them to find a solution, and it might help with that if they would extend the deadline. But that's their decision. We don't know what they'll do.
So if nothing happens past the February 2nd deadline, is there going to be a continued push on this initiative for the next year?
Well, absolutely. What will have happened if they have excluded hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of worthy causes? They're going to throw them into real financial peril, maybe even reducing or canceling numerous good things. This would be devastating. And so this is not good for this year, but I would certainly hope they don't repeat it next year. It's a very real problem, and I'm disturbed that the government would do this. If they have a problem with some organization, they could speak to the organization, and if they're not meeting their standards, well, then okay. But to make this broad, ideological belief test is just not fair.
And as usual, it's the kids that will inevitably suffer from the folly of our mistakes and become the collateral damage of our uncompromising stubbornness. And suffer they will. Students like Luca, Elijah, and Christina, camp counselors at St. Benedict's Summer Days programs, will be one of the many kids this summer who will suffer the consequence of the government's unwavering position.
Well, it takes the job away from me. And, I could get a job somewhere else, stocking shelves or doing something which I really don't like. But at the end of the day, I love working with kids. It's something I aspire to do going into university. And at the end of the day, I love working with kids, but it's a job. I need money for university. Universities are so expensive now, and how else am I supposed to get that? And with Summer Days, I'm doing something I love and getting paid for it, and it's great because I get to be in a safe and loving environment with my friends and young children who I love being with, and it's just great. I love it.
So then with this new funding policy, there's a possibility that you won't get funding for this, which means that you may not even have a job.
Yeah, that's right. Think of the kids. Most of this is going to affect summer camps. Because summer jobs, summer camps, it's the same words, really. And can't the government just think of the kids? Think of how many kids, especially in an area like this around St. Benedict's Church, where it's majority low-income families, and including a lot of people I know. And it's like, think of the kids. Think of how many kids are not going to have a fun summer, a safe summer, and a place with a loving environment. And it's just at the end of the day, don't do this to get some more money in your pocket. Don't do this so that you can ruin some faith-based group's life. Don't do it so that you can make a kid's day, make a kid's life. I know a lot of kids that, they look up to a lot of my friends. They look up to me. And if I never met them, if Summer Days never existed, who knows where they'd be at. It's really sad.
The fact that the Summer Days camp may not qualify anymore for funding for the government under this new attestation requirement, does this affect you guys at all?
I think that of course affects us because this is a summer job for all of us, and it's an opportunity to kind of grow not only as you know, as the campers grow, it's letting us grow as staff members and as us in our teen lives. I personally would continue to volunteer at the camp even if we don't get government funded, because it means that much to me. But I know that, of course, like, we'll be able to do so much more with the kids if we did get that government funding, and so many more staff would, you know, arise to the opportunity.
And what message do you guys have for the government about this issue?
I feel that it's unnecessary. No matter what group you're involved with, I think everybody has their opinion, their belief, and that should be left out of the equation of whether or not someone in their teens or anyone should get a summer job. I think that should be left out of the equation. This camp is holding the future of Canada. Children that are going to be the next prime ministers and the next lawmakers, the next doctors. So I feel it's important they grow as they're young, and just it upsets me that this is even a factor with regards to funding for a summer job.
The Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops responded to this issue with a statement early January that wisely pointed out that there will be, unfortunately, consequences on the ground. Summer camps will be forced to close. The services of numerous nonprofit organizations will be reduced. Valuable opportunities for apprenticeships will be lost. And it looks like they are right. It seems that this summer, the effects of this infringement on our Charter of Rights and Freedoms will be felt in Catholic dioceses and organizations, as well as many other faith communities across Canada. Now, what of the Prime Minister in all this? For his part, Trudeau has arrogantly dismissed this whole issue as a kerfluffle, and he's still insisting that employers agree with his party's position on abortion and reproductive rights before giving funds to create summer jobs for kids like Luca, Christina, and Elijah. Though it's really not a surprise, after seeing the Prime Minister previously order conformity on his resolute pro-choice stand on abortion from his entire caucus, or face banishment from the Liberal Party, can we really expect any flexibility on any other position that differs from his? I guess we'll have to wait and see and pray for a miracle. I'm Noel Oakle. Thanks for joining us.